Lamont. I'm not married. I still got to sow some wild oats.
Pop, at your age, you ain't got no wild oats. You got shredded wheat.
Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to 2024 Red G Fox Channel. Yeah, it's here, man. I can't believe it's 2024. I hope you guys had a very safe, happy New Year. As we get ready, man, we got episodes I am very excited about. As I said, season 3 is the best, in my opinion, in show history, and we are so close to reaching it. We also get Rated X coming up soon. Yeah, there's still a grip of episodes that I can't wait to talk about. We got Lamont going African. And we got a bunch of shorts. I'm getting shorts and posts. Don't forget to go vote on our favorite character that had one and done. That tournament's still going on. We're going to have the second one up, round 2, coming up just in a few days. But yeah, I hope everything went well for you. The Happy New Year. Let's get into today's episode. Today it's called Fred and Carol and Fred and Donna. It's got its moments. I have to be honest, straight up front. I've always said top 20, bottom 20. This, in my opinion, is bottom 20. And I've always said, clarify, the 136th episode is still amazing. It's just, to me, when I watch it, I had 3 or 4 really decent laughs, maybe 1 or 2 real big laughs. But the rest of it was good. It was nice seeing Fred talk to Carol. It's cool seeing him where he interacts almost like a normal, something you would see a candid area time in the show, as opposed to so much other hijinks going on, which this does have plenty. But in it, let's get to right away the summary. Basically in this one, it's Fred hanging out. He's got a date with Donna after she cracks his neck, hanging out in the morning. Then he meets this new woman, hits it off really big with her, and he invites her to a date on accident. Lamont says, hey, you're going to have a barracuda and a ram hanging out at the same table. And that's when it hits him. He has to now break it up. Lamont screws it up and intentionally messes it, makes Fred have to jump through all these hoops. The girls get together now. Can Fred defuse this or get through an evening with 2 girls? He's in big trouble. So that's basically it on the summary of this episode. I would say this would have to be in probably the 10 least episodes I've watched. This is the first time I've probably watched this one in over 2 years. Like I said, when I get on the show, I like to hit up my favorite ones, and this is not one of them. But it was good watching it for the show. I mean, besides learning things about it, it's still fun to say, I gotta go watch it again. So now I sat down, watched it, and when you don't watch it so much, some of the material is fresh. There's a few lines I actually forgotten there. Let's see if you remember some of them. Now, I will say this, the best joke for me that made me go bust up laughing is when Fred's like, hey, Lamont, when he's talking about, Lamont's like telling him, hey, what are you doing? You can't be burning cannon at both ends at your age. And he gets down and he says, look, I'm not married. I still got some wild oats to sow. And Lamont's like, at your age, you don't got no wild oats. You got shredded wheat. It's so good. That line, when he said that busted me up laughing. In my opinion, in this episode, since I said minimal laughs, Lamont gets some of the best moments. Lamont has some really good times where he's being conniving to where Lamont made me laugh more in this than anything else in this episode. I will say that. So this is a good one if you're a big-time Lamont fan or you like to see Lamont get a lot of the jokes. He does anyways, but this one I think highlighted Lamont more. So that's summary. That's best joke. Let's get to familiar faces. We already know everyone else in it. This one is Kim Hamilton. Yes, we know her from several other things. We'll cover it. She played Carol Davis in this one. A crazy thing is she will be on Sanford and Son again. I want to say season 4, and it's the other woman or the older woman. One of them. I think it's the other woman. And that's when Fred and Grady go in disguises to try to see who Lamont's dating. They think it's this young girl, and it's actually the girl's mother. And this lady is older. This is it. So Kim Hamilton actually reappears again, and so she's one of the few people in show history you would have to think that actually kind of had a thing with Fred and Lamont. That's pretty wild. Not too many other people, I don't even think, in show history. She also appeared in Sanford, one of the few actors or actresses that appeared in both shows, Sanford and Son and Sanford. She was big she did something called Tarzan and the Super 7. That was something big for her. She did a lot of those episodes. She did Days of Our Lives, The Jeffersons, Good Times, all popular shows in that era. And she was in over 70 different shows, movies. I mean, she did so many things. Just seeing her like outside of Sanford and Son. Yeah, I remember her from Good Times. Yeah, I remember her from, The Jeffersons. So she was real popular that era, but she did things all the way up to 2008 was one of the last movies I saw her do. I think she passed away in 2011 or 13, possibly 13. But yeah, that's it on Kim Hamilton. Now, let's get to fun facts. And I hate when there's not a lot of fun facts because that's part of the best part of the show is maybe learning something you did not know. Maybe you did not know this. I did mention she was on Days of Our Lives. funny part in this episode when when they're saying goodbye and she's about to leave, Fred quotes,
"Hourglass, so are the days of our life."
Fred, that's very poetic.
You know, just as the sand sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. And she stops, she's like, oh, did you make that up? And he's like, no. And it's basically from the Days of Our Lives TV show, and he mentions it. She was actually on the show at that time, so that's pretty cool. I think they worked it in that way. That is the only fun fact I can think of. You couldn't even look that up. That's just something I saw by the fact she was in that show and everything went down there. So that's it. Let's get to the breakdown. That's the main part of the show. Here we go. In this, we start out where Fred is getting his neck cracked, you know, from Donna. He's getting a nice massage, and he's telling her about a nightmare, watching a vampire movie, and things like that. And she's like, oh, you know, we're going to have a nice date tonight. And Fred's like, hey, don't you worry, I'm going to cook. And Lamont comes down, and Lamont's like, oh, you know, Lamont wants breakfast. And he comes down, and he's like, oh, I didn't know we were going to be having company this early in the morning. He's not happy. He never is happy with Donna. This is one of the few times we will see him happy with Donna early on. We know he ends up being super nice to her and changes his whole demeanor later on. But in this one, he is very happy to see her later on, and we know why. But Donna takes off, and it's like, okay, I'll see you tonight. And he's like, yeah, I'll make dinner. You got it all, babe. You're going to have a great time. So she leaves, and that's when Lamont's like, you know what? I didn't get breakfast ready. I didn't get anything. He's not happy. He's like, you should have had my breakfast ready, Pop. So he takes off, and as he goes, Fred's like, yeah, I got things to do. I got the big game. And so he's going to go watch a big game, and then he hears the door, and he thinks it's Lamont. Goes to the door, and in comes Carol. And she's such a breath there. I always seem to mess that up. I'm good at mixing the words up. Breath of fresh air. And she comes in, very kind, very polite, and it turns out she's just a door-to-door salesman selling stuff, and she's gonna spray she's spraying the aerosol, you know, air spray.
No, it's a room freshener. Disinfects and deodorizes. Rids your home of noxious odors. It's called Paris in the Spring. Are you familiar with that aroma?
No, I'm more familiar with Chicago stockyards in the summer.
And she's spraying it, and she's like, oh, you familiar with that smell? It's Paris in the spring. And he's like, no, I'm more familiar with Chicago stockyards in the summer. And then she's like, oh, you from Chicago? And he's like, no, I'm from St. Louis. Little side fact, he actually lived a time in Chicago, Red Fox, and he actually worked as a dishwasher with Malcolm X. A lot of people don't know that. They were buddies, and I want to say he was Chicago Red. They had the nicknames for the city. And Red Fox was Chicago Red, and Malcolm X, I forgot. Well, I'll put it next time. I'm going to have a video this month about the whole backstory between Malcolm X and Red Fox. But anyways, they get to that. He ended up, Malcolm X called Red Fox the funniest dishwasher in Earth, you know, all over the earth, best of all time. So cool fact about that in case you didn't know. So anyways, back to this. He's like, no, I'm not from Chicago, I'm from St. Louis. She's like, oh, no kidding. I went to high school in St. Louis. And she says the name of the school, and he's like, oh, how funny. He said, I had some fooling around time in there. And she's like, oh, you went to school? He said, no, I just said I fooled around there. He didn't go to school there. He probably hooked up with some of the girls. And then they start talking about St. Louis, and they go, yeah, let's go get some coffee. And they sit down in the kitchen, and you could see, right, there's not a lot of humor there, but you could just see the back and forth. Great acting, great chemistry. And if you're just watching like a game show where, right, they're trying to hook up on a date, you would say, love connection. This is a love connection. It seemed to really hit off. And then they're like, oh my gosh, Lamont's home for lunch. And they've been talking for hours. Turns out it was 3. We'll find out later, but they've been talking for hours. So she goes to leave, and Fred's like, hey, how would you like to come by tonight? You know, I'll make dinner. Everything will be great. And she's like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah, I'll be there. So she leaves, and that's when Lamont goes. He tells her, and he's like, it's going to be, because she said her sign was a ram. And he's like, you're going to have a tough time having a ram and a barracuda at the dinner table. And that's when Fred's like, oh, no. And he runs out there, and he calls, and he leaves a voice message to say, hey, cancel dinner, can't do dinner tonight, whatever it is, so he can get out of it. And Lamont's pissed. Lamont's like, you know what? You can't be doing this. You can't be hanging around. You know, we said earlier, can't burn the candle from each end. And Fred's like, at my age, I'll be happy to burn the candle from this side, the bottom, the back, anywhere, just as long as it's burning, rightfully so. And that's when he mentioned the shredded weed. Very funny line. That always, like I said, when I hear it, cracks me up. I forgot about that line. Great line. And I'll even have a clip. If you didn't already see it, it's right here.
I'm not married. I still got to sow some wild oats.
Pop, at your age, you ain't got no wild oats. You got shredded wheat.
Okay, so I got shredded wheat. but I still got a whole lot of snap, crackle, and pop left.
So then he goes, little Fred's like, hey, I got it. I'm smooth. I'm ready. He's singing that fine brown frame. You know, he said, and we love when Fred sings. He goes upstairs and then the phone rings. And I can't believe Fred didn't say, hey, if that's about Donna or something. He doesn't. Lamont picks it up and it's Donna. And she's like, what do you mean Fred can't do dinner? And he's like, no, it messed up. Lamont gets it. He's got that grin. He's like, no, it was, he can't make dinner. Could you make dinner and bring it over? Oh boy. So we know it's going to be good. Then he hangs up and he's like, that fine brown frame. Lamont, like I said, he really cracks me up in this. It was good to see Lamont get like the main focus in this one when it comes to jokes. So he's all made up. The next scene, we see the table's looking nice. Fred went all out. Lamont's like, he's nice. And he sits down. He's like, can I stay, Pop? He's like, this is my house too. And he's like, no, I went through all this trouble to make this romantic. You're not staying. He's like, please, just let me stay for a little bit. And then he's going to say no. And then there's a knock at the door. Fred thinks it's Carol. He goes and he's all like a gentleman, opens the door, and he sees Donna. And he's just like, oh, what? His face freezes, as you can see right here. His face freezes, and then he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, hello, Fred. And she brought the dinner, and Fred can't get it. He's like, he tells him, what the heck's going on? What is she doing here? And he goes in there, and she goes to go, hey, I'll prepare. And that's when she says, oh, Lamont told me you couldn't make dinner, and I had to make dinner and bring it over. He's all, oh, good. Now you can see Fred's pissed. He's all, yeah, you take care of dinner. I'll take care of Lamont. And he goes out there, rightfully so. Man, I'm just thinking, if I'm Fred at this situation, I'm flaming. I'm pissed. I would say, Donna, I got to go out real quick and do something. Stay here with Lamont. I'll be back. And I wouldn't even tell Lamont. And I would get out there. When I saw Carol in the corner, we would hightail it out of there. Because it's like, you're in a no-win situation. But Fred is doing whatever he can to get out of it. And now Carol's there, and he can't do anything. Carol, he runs outside, because Lamont, he says, go check on Donna. I'll get rid of Carol. He goes outside, tries to get rid of her, and she's like, okay, and they're going to go, right? Like we were saying, he's going to go, and he doesn't care. She's like, what about, don't you need a coat? And he's like, oh, no, we're going to get a Chinese restaurant. They don't care what you dress like there. And then Lamont comes, he's like, oh, Pop, dinner's ready. And she's like, no, we can't do this. Your son made dinner. We got to eat with them. He should have just left, but now he goes in. Now he's screwed. And they come in, and that's when Donna comes in, and now they're talking. And she's like, okay, and Fred's like, hey, Lamont should have told you. He's passing the buck. Lamont should have said it. And Lamont's like, I'm sorry, Miss Davis. And I forgot that. He's almost like an Eddie Haskell.
Would you like to stay for dinner?
Oh, may I?
Well, I'll just set another place.
Thank you very much.
He said earlier when Donna was there, he's like, oh, nobody cooks like you, Miss Davis. Called her Miss Davis and how well she cooks. And she's like, oh, Lamont, that's so sweet. Would you like to stay with us? And he's like, oh, may I? The way he does it, it's so believable. And we can feel, as a fan, the excitement that Lamont's character is feeling too. Because if I was there and I was going through that, oh, I would be on cloud nine. I'd do everything I could not to smile with the excitement and anticipation of what's about to happen. So I forgot that part. That does happen. And so now she's like, okay, well, I'll go get food. Let me, we're not going to have enough for seconds. You can see Donna is totally not happy with this. She goes, and then Carol asks Fred, she's all,
I don't think there'll be enough for seconds.
Is she your maid?
is she your maid? Fred's all, no, she's just a family friend. He's not telling her nothing. He's doing whatever he can. So they all get together. They get their seating arrangements down. Lamont even said earlier, oh, I don't even want to, telling Carol, oh, I won't even eat. I just want to, remember, because she's like, I should leave. There's not enough. It's an inconvenience. Lamont's like, oh, I won't even eat. I just want to watch. Carol should have been like, watch. What do you want to watch? Red flag. So they all sit down. And that's when it starts. Donna keeps going, oh, how long have you known Fred? And Fred's like, oh, yeah. He keeps interrupting them. Whatever they say, he won't let him complete a sentence or get back and forth like a tennis match. And he goes, yeah, you know what? We should say grace. And Lamont's like, Pop, we never pray. He said, well, like I think it was his aunt or his grandma used to say, he said, it never hurts. So he stops to pray, and he's praying, and when he's done, she's like, oh, that was beautiful. Carol's like, that was beautiful, Fred. So they're trying to eat again, and then he brings up, she says, oh, I just met him today. I don't have a lot of friends. Fred's like, you know what? Yeah, having a great friend is a good thing. He said, I got a best friend.
Yeah, ain't nothing like having a good friend. You know who my best friend is?
Baba?
No, Jesus.
And Lamont's like, who, Bubba? It should have been Bubba. He's all, who, Bubba? Fred's all, no, Jesus. Oh my gosh. The way he says it too, he's like, Jesus, like almost like, Lord, help me. And hey, I love Jesus. Let's not fight. Everybody, let's get along. And it just goes back and forth. I'm not going to bore with the whole details of how much it goes back and forth. But it finally comes down to, she's like, what? Because she thought she was a cook. And Donna's like, no, I'm a doctor. And she thought they were friends for professional reasons. She's like, no, I'm his fiance, and shows the ring. And she's like, your fiance? She's like, yes, didn't he tell you? And then she goes, oh, no, he didn't tell me. She's like, we were talking for nearly 3 hours. And Donna's like, 3 hours? And she's like, yes, didn't she tell you? I mean, these girls are going back and forth, fighting, and Fred's just like, he doesn't even know what to do, how to handle this. You know, he almost had a fake stroke earlier at the door when Carol showed up. So now he's like, he's trying to get it. Can we just all get along? And she even says, that's when she insults her. And Donna's like, you gonna let her insult your fiance? I want her out of here. And Fred's like, hey, you know, he should have said, I'm sorry, you gotta leave. You got to take one or the other, Fred. You can't have both. And he tried to have his cake and eat it too. And at the end, the girls are both like, well, Donna's like, I'm out of here. And then Carol's like, well, no, I'm not staying here taking this two-time loser. I'm out of here. And Fred's like, no. And they both leave. And he wants to kill Lamont. He's like, this is all your fault. And he runs out there to stop him. And you can hear both cars drive away. And then he comes back in and he looks around and Lamont's nowhere to be found. And he's like, oh, yeah. Now you're gone? So he's walking and he's like, Lamont? He says it so kindly. He's all, Lamont? He's all, where are you, bud? He's like, I got your dessert for you. And then he picks up a bat, you know, Fred's favorite. He's got the bat. He's ready to swing. And he's even in the stairwell looking like a Jackie Robinson ready to take a swipe. He said, I got pudding. I got some pudding for you because I'm going to put this bat right up your... And it ends like that. Oh, my gosh. That's the best part. When I go through the whole episode, I don't remember like busting up a bunch until the end, or when Lamont cracked a few good jokes. So on a laughter meter, I would say 1 through 10, this is probably a 6. But as an episode overall, even IMDb gives it over a 7, like 7.7. I think that's a little high. I would probably say 7.4. But the episode is good. It does its job. It's not bad. It's not boring. It's just, it's not super memorable with the laughs, other than a few times at the end. I think that's what it's best at. It builds up the anticipation to the end, where then you do get a very awkward moment and some great lines. And then we see Fred on the phone, and Lamont comes down and he sees him and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Donna, you know, and he's making up with Donna, and they'll get together the next day. Fred's like, well, I can't believe she took you back, you two-timer. You should be lucky. And he's like, hey, Donna knows you can depend on me. That's why she took me back. And then he calls Carol right after. And he's like, hey, Carol, and he gives her a story. He's like, how would you like to get together tonight? And she's coming. So he's right back where he came from. Lamont can't mess it up this time. We know nothing comes of Carol, right? Other than Lamont dates her again one day. But that's about it. So, oh, man. Funny ending. Fred does not learn his lesson. And that's basically it for Fred and Carol and Fred and Donna. Oh, yeah. Good times. Good episode. So that's it on the breakdown. I hope you guys have a great New Year's. This is the day after New Year's. I made this actually New Year's Eve night. Waiting for the fireworks to go off. But this will be posted on the day after New Year's. So I hope you had a great New Year's. We will see you coming up this Friday. Actually, I might make a video. It depends. Before Friday, Thursday, probably for the round 2 tournament. I'll have to get cracking on that. And then we'll have our Friday fun facts. And then a game show as well. We got so much going on in this channel. If you have not already, what are you doing? Like, subscribe, join our community, eventually you'll be able to become a member, and you'll get even live shows that I only do for our members. I mean, there's so many things that we're going to do that you want to be part of. We're going to have giveaways, I promise, coming up. So please like, subscribe, and join today our Sanford Son community if you really love Sanford and Son. Have a great time, great week. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
You're welcome.
Would you like to stay for dinner?
Oh, may I?